Wherever we look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it's the early life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, pre-prophethood and then prophethood and then the migration and then the life in Mecca or Medina, we always find the name Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu closely attached to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even before Islam they were friends, and then after Islam they became the best of friends. The best of friends. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one narration he says that had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not taken me as his Khalil, I would have taken Abu Bakr as my Khalil in the life hereafter. So wherever we look in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find Abu Bakr. We talk about, as I've mentioned, his life before prophethood and even after prophethood, and in Medina, who traveled to Rasulullah to Medina, it was Abu Bakr. When we talk about the family of Rasulullah, we talk about Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr was the father-in-law of Rasulullah. He was the father of Aisha bint Abi Bakr. And then even after the life of Rasulullah, the first name that comes to our mind is Abu Bakr, because he was the first Khalifa of Islam. And then after the demise of Abu Bakr, we still find that the family of Abu Bakr are heavily active and involved in Islam. Aisha bint Abi Bakr, Aisha, his daughter, lived another 50 years after the death of Rasulullah. His elder daughter, Asma bint Abi Bakr, she lived, according to most historians, she lived for 100 years. And she was from the last of the Muhajirun to die. She was from the Muhajirun and she was the last to die. She died at the age of 100. The mother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. We spoke about this in part 1 of the life of Abu Bakr. So wherever we look, and then Abdullah ibn Zubayr as well, he was heavily involved in Islam as well. So wherever we look in Islam, we always find the family of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu involved. And I mentioned this in part 1 as well, that Abu Bakr's family are the only family where at one stage during the time of Rasulullah, each and every member was a Muslim. The last was his father, Usman, who embraced Islam at a very old age. We mentioned the story to you of his embracing Islam. He was 91, 92 when he embraced Islam. They brought him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Abu Bakr was the only person, his family was the only family where 4 generations during the life of Rasulullah were Sahabis. 4 generations. His father, then Abu Bakr, then his daughter Asma, and then Abdullah ibn Zubayr, the son of Asma bint Abi Bakr. So in part 1 we looked at the life of Abu Bakr before Islam and then how he embraced Islam. And today's program will be mainly based around some of the virtues of Abu Bakr, his life in Medina, and then how he became Khalifa, and then his death. So we mentioned that Abu Bakr was, of course, the best friend of Rasulullah in this world, and he was the closest to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whenever we talk about Abu Bakr, we find that he was the first to do many things. He was the first to do many things. For example, he was the first man to believe in Allah. He was the first mu'min. And Rasulullah said regarding his iman, that the iman of Abu Bakr is far greater than the iman of the rest of you, referring to the other Sahaba. He said, the other Sahaba, some of you questioned me, you doubted me, you fought against me as well, and then you embraced Islam. Abu Bakr embraced Islam without any doubts, without any questions. He was the first believer. He was the first Khalifa as well. He was the first Khatib. He was the first person to stand out in the open before the Kaaba and give a talk, a speech. He was the first compiler of the Quran. It was his idea that the Quran should be compiled and be formed into a mushaf. He was the first person to come up with that idea. He was the first person who was the leader in doing the deeds we mentioned last week as well, or last month I should mention. That when the Rasul asked the Sahabis, is there anyone who is fasting today? Abu Bakr put his hand up. He said, is there anyone who's given charity? Abu Bakr put his hand up, said, is there anyone who's visited the sick? He put his hand up. Anyone who's been to janazah today? Abu Bakr put his hand up. Rasulullah said, anyone who combines these 4 things in one day will be given entry to Jannah. So Abu Bakr, we find, was always the first person to do things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned Abu Bakr as ulul fadl in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned Abu Bakr in the Quran, وَسَيُجَنَّبُ الْأَتْقَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned Abu Bakr in many places in the Quran. So Abu Bakr was very kind-hearted, he was very gentle, very caring. There's a narration mentioned that Abu Bakr would take care of a blind woman. This woman was blind, she was quite old, she had young children, and Abu Bakr would go in the morning, he would clean her house, he would dress up her children, and he would attend to their foods, the provisions, he would set up some food for them, and then he would leave. This woman didn't know who Abu Bakr was. All she knew was that a man came in the morning and he took care of her house and her children as well. This is Abu Bakr. From the virtues of Abu Bakr, it is mentioned in the Sahih of Al-Imam Bukhari, narrated by Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, that when during the life of Rasulullah, when we used to sit amongst ourselves, the Sahaba, we used to talk about who is the greatest Sahabi, who is the greatest of us all. And every Sahabi agreed that Abu Bakr is the greatest. And many ulama have said that Abu Bakr is the greatest man after all of the prophets. After all of the prophets, the greatest man to live on the face of this planet was indeed Abu Bakr. And as Ibn Kathir mentioned, his love for Rasulullah was so great that he is the only person, or one of very few, who took part in every single ghazwa with Rasulullah. Every single expedition that Rasulullah took part in, Abu Bakr was always on his side. Abu Bakr was always on his side. There's a story of him when he migrated to Medina to Munawwara. One night in Mecca, Rasulullah was given the go-ahead to migrate to Medina. So he comes to inform Abu Bakr of this. He's come to inform Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr asked Rasulullah, have I also been given permission to migrate with you? And Rasulullah said yes. And Abu Bakr started crying. And Aisha said, I have never seen my father cry like he cried on that night. And then Abu Bakr is the one who migrates with Rasulullah, the two alone. And then they reach the cave, the famous cave. We've all heard of that story. And where they're about to enter the cave, and Abu Bakr says to Rasulullah, just wait, let me clean the cave. Let me clean the cave. So he takes off his qamis, his jubba, and he cleans it up. And then with the qamis, he covers each and every hole that was in the cave except one. So that no spiders, no snakes, no serpents come in. So he covers all of the holes, and then he tells the Rasulullah to come in. And then he tells the Rasulullah, do you have a rest? Put your blessed head on my thighs, on my leg. And the last hole, he covers it with his feet, with one of his foot. And now Rasulullah is resting. Look at that love for Rasulullah. And then he is bitten by a snake or a serpent. And he is in so much pain. He is in so much pain, he doesn't want to move. Why does he not want to move? He knows that if he moves, he will wake up Rasulullah. So he's holding on, he's keeping that pain inside until he starts to cry. And when he starts crying, his tears start coming out. And his tears fall on the blessed face of Rasulullah. And that wakes up Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, what's the problem, Abu Bakr? Why are you crying? He said, I have been bitten by a snake. He said, well, why did you not wake me up? He said, I did not want to disturb you, O Prophet of Allah. I did not want to disturb you, O Prophet of Allah. Abu Bakr was the person, the one Sahabi who Rasulullah always took nasiyah of, guidance. We find that in the Battle of Badr, when they had 72 prisoners of war, they captured 72 prisoners of war. So Rasulullah would always turn to Abu Bakr for advice. So he said to Abu Bakr, what do you think we should do with the 72 prisoners of war? This is the first time in Islam they had prisoners. And Abu Bakr said, I think it's best that we keep them as prisoners, but let us not punish them because, Allah willing, who knows, they will embrace Islam. They will become Muslims. They are our families, they are our friends. Who knows, one day they will become Muslims. Rasulullah turned around and he asked Umar, he said, what do you think? And Umar said, you need to kill each of them. You need to kill each of them. Each one of them. And the thing here is that Quranic verses got revealed after this. And the Quranic verses got revealed in favor of Umar ibn Khattab. The Quranic verses that followed were in favor of Umar ibn Khattab, even though Rasulullah took the advice of Abu Bakr, that it's okay, we will allow the prisoners, we won't kill them, they can live because Allah willing they will become Muslims. But the reason I mentioned this was that Rasulullah always took guidance and advice from Abu Bakr. And at this, before the Quranic verse got revealed, Rasulullah turned to his Sahaba and he said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to soften somebody's heart, it becomes like milk. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to harden somebody's heart, it becomes like stone, like rocks. And then he made a similitude. He said, Abu Bakr, you are like Isa, alayhi salatu wassalam. He said, you have a soft heart like Isa. Because Isa is mentioned in the Quran, when he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his followers who did not believe in him. He said, إِن تُعَذِّبْهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ وَإِن تَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ فَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. He said, if you punish them, إِن تُعَذِّبْهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ, they're your servants, Allah. And if you forgive them, then you are أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. You are you are exalted in your might and you are the most wise. So he gave the similitude. He said, you have a soft heart just like Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. And he said, Umar ibn Khattab, your heart is like Nuh. When Nuh made dua against his people, وَقَالَ نُوحُ الرَّبِّ لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. That do not leave any non-believers in the face of this planet. And he said, you are also like Musa as well. When Musa made dua against Fir'aun. When the dua is mentioned in the Quran, when Musa made dua against Fir'aun as well. So this is the love of Rasulullah had for Abu Bakr. And not only that, we learn the kindness of Abu Bakr as well. During the Khalifaship of Abu Bakr, this is approximately 40 days after the demise of Rasulullah. We're talking about the kindness and how forgiving Abu Bakr was. He came out and he went to meet one of the tribes, Banu Thaqif in Taif. Now, this is regarding the Battle of Taif, which took place after the conquest of Makkah. So he went there and he went with an arrow. And he asked the people of Thaqif, he said, do you know who this arrow belongs to? So the people started asking one another. Arrows were things that were designed and made by people themselves. Arrows were not something that you could buy in the markets. You use them for whatever purpose, and then you reuse them as well. You recycle them all the time. Until Sa'id ibn Ubayd came and he said, this is my arrow. I remember I designed this arrow. This is my arrow. He said, well, this is the arrow that killed my son Abdullah. This is the arrow that killed my son Abdullah. And this happened in the Battle of Taif, where Abdullah was injured, and then because of that injury, approximately 1.5 years later, he died. He died in the lifetime of his father Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr, he kept that arrow. And listen to what Abu Bakr says to Sa'id ibn Ubayd. He says, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, it is through you that my son was honored. And Alhamdulillah, it is a good thing that through my son you were not made a fool. That you were not disgraced. What is the meaning of this? The first part he says that Alhamdulillah, through you my son was honored. Meaning that you killed my son, my son died as a shaheed. My son died as a shaheed. And then because of my son and his work of da'wah as well, you embraced Islam. He became a Muslim later on, and your sins have been forgiven. So at the time when he killed Abdullah, the son of Abu Bakr, he wasn't a Muslim, but later on he became Muslim. And this is why he said, and alhamdulillah, through my son, you were not disgraced, meaning you embraced Islam. And this is because of my son. So he was very kind-hearted, was Abu Bakr. And he was very forgiving as well, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. From the few glimpses we have of Abu Bakr's life in Medina, once he went to the house, or rather he was walking past the house of Rasulullah and Aisha radiyallahu anha, and he heard they were quarreling, they were arguing. So he took permission and he went into the house of Rasulullah and he started to admonish his daughter, to the extent that he gave her a little slap as well. That, have I not given you nasiha? You are married to the Prophet of Allah and you raise your voice. How dare you do this? And then Rasulullah, he intervened and he said, oh, it's okay, Abu Bakr, it's fine, it's not a problem, leave her. And so Abu Bakr left, and the Rasulullah would always remind Aisha of this, that I saved you from the punishment of your father. From this we learn that it's fine, it's okay. Sometimes husband and wife, they have disagreement in the household, it's fine. Alhamdulillah, we have these few glimpses of Rasulullah's interior life as well, life in the household as well. We find this and we kind of think, well, after all, alhamdulillah, Rasulullah was human. And these things, when they happen in our house, it's like, oh, it's a big thing. No, these things happen in the house of Rasulullah. Perhaps not as much as they happen in our household, but these things happen in the time of Rasulullah, in his own household, with his wives as well. So if your wife is shouting at you, it's okay. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Patience is a good virtue. Then some days later, he is walking past the house of Rasulullah and Aisha again, and he is there laughing. And he gets happy at this, so he knocks the door, he takes permission, he goes in, and he says to Rasulullah, give me permission to allow your household and to allow your moment of peace, just like you allowed me to enter your moment of war. Meaning that some time back when you two were arguing, you allowed me to enter your house, and like this, give me permission so that I now be part of your happiness, be part of your peace as well. So this was from Abu Bakr's life in Medina. During the end life of Rasulullah, he gave a lot of indications that Abu Bakr would be the next Khalifa. So for example, during the end life of Rasulullah, Abu Bakr would lead the prayers, and then before Rasulullah passed away, he said to the Sahaba, he said, those houses that were adjacent to the Prophet's Masjid, he said, close all of the doors except the door of Abu Bakr. Close all of the doors except the door of Abu Bakr. And then a woman came once to Rasulullah, and it was something about money. And Rasulullah said to her that if you come tomorrow, I will sort out your problem tomorrow. And she said, what if I don't find you tomorrow? He said, well, if you don't find him here tomorrow, meaning what if you die tomorrow? Then you go to Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr will take care and look after your case. So even whilst Rasulullah was alive, he made these indications that Abu Bakr was going to be the next Khalifa. When Rasulullah died, the Sahaba were in great shock. So for example, Usman ibn Affan, he went silent, he wasn't talking, he just sat down on the spot. And Ali ibn Abi Talib, he went into hiding, he went to his house. And Umar ibn Khattab came out with a sword and he said, if anyone says to me and tells me Rasulullah has died, I will chop off their arms and legs. Rasulullah has not died, he's gone to Allah for 40 days and 40 nights like Musa did, and he will return back. So Umar ibn Khattab is threatening some of the Sahaba, and most dangerously, some of the tribes who had learned about this, they started to question Islam and Rasulullah. So anyway, when Abu Bakr came and he was informed of the death of Rasulullah, the first thing he did was he went to his daughter's house, and he went to the blessed chamber of Rasulullah, and he unveiled the face of Rasulullah who was lying down dead, and he kissed his forehead. And he said, you were pure when you were alive, and you are pure when you are dead. And he kissed him on his forehead. And then he went to the masjid. And when he went to the masjid, everyone sat down. First there was listening to Umar ibn Khattab. Now Umar ibn Khattab is telling them that Rasulullah will be back. He hasn't died, he'll be back after 40 days, 40 nights. When Abu Bakr walked in, they left Umar ibn Khattab. They came to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr said, أيها الناس, O people, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات. Those of you who worship Muhammad, know that indeed Muhammad has died. ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله حي لا يموت. And those of you who worship Allah, know that Allah is alive, Allah does not die. And then he prayed the verse, وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبل الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم, to the end. That وما محمد إلا رسول. Muhammad was nothing but a prophet, a Rasul. قد خلت من قبل الرسل. And prophets before him have come and they have left as well. And Umar ibn Khattab, he is a Quran Hafiz. He says, when I heard this verse, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ, it was as though it was freshly revealed. And when Abu Bakr prayed that verse, my legs went cold, my feet went numb, and I fell on the ground. And then when Abu Bakr finished his khutbah, he said, it was silence, pin drop silence. You could just hear one or two sahabis crying quietly. Then Abu Bakr went with Umar to the Ansar, because the Ansar, after some time, they got together and they decided that they were going to appoint an Amir, and the candidate was Sa'd ibn Ubadah. They decided that he was going to be the next Amir of the Muslims. So Umar ibn Khattab went to prepare a speech, and he went with Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr was informed of this, and Umar wanted to speak, and Abu Bakr said to him, let me speak first. He said, O Ansar, you are right in what you are doing. You want to appoint a Khalifa, because you are probably most deserving of this, because Rasulullah has praised you so much. You know, you say that you are the army of Allah and you are the helpers of Allah. Definitely, Allah has given us nasi'ah regarding you. Allah said, Allah fil ansar, usikum bil ansari khayra. And he mentioned this hadith of Rasulullah. He said, you are the true ansar of Allah, of Rasulullah and Allah. And yes, you are the true followers. And Rasulullah said that if the ansar were to take one path and the rest of us were to take another path, Rasulullah would follow your path. And Rasulullah made a promise to you that he was going to live with you and he was going to die with you, and he has fulfilled his promise. But he said, listen, people of Ansar, the Quraysh will not accept a leader to be other than a Qurayshi. The Quraysh, the Muslims, will not accept a leader but that he should be from the Quraysh. And therefore, who is saying this? Abu Bakr. I nominate Umar ibn Khattab and Abu Ubaidah to be, either one of them to be the next Khalifa, the next Amir. And Umar ibn Khattab, he says that when I walked to the Ansar and I was writing a speech or I was preparing a speech, everything I wanted to say, Abu Bakr said, except the last part when he said that I should be one of the candidates. He said, how can I rule over the Muslims when Abu Bakr is alive? I'd rather be beheaded than to rule the Muslims when Abu Bakr is alive. And at this, Umar ibn Khattab, he took the hand of Abu Bakr and he said, no, I give bay'ah to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr will be the next Khalifa of the Muslims. And like this, one by one, all of the Muslims from the Ansar, the Muhajirun, and the other tribes, one by one, they started to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. His Khalifaship lasted only 2.5 years. It was a very short Khalifaship. And before I finish, regarding one incident regarding the death of Rasulullah, he prepared an army. Usama ibn Zayd was going to lead the army to fight the Romans, and this was a command from Rasulullah that he gave to the Muslims, and he made Usama ibn Zayd be the leader. He said, you will go and fight the Romans, and you will go and bring victory to the land where your father lived. Meaning, I think he was referring to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, the Romans. He said, you will fight and win back the land from those people who killed your father, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So Rasulullah has died, and as I mentioned, a lot of people were starting to question Islam. A lot of people were leaving Islam. A lot of people did leave Islam. So some of these Sahabi, they got together and they said to Abu Bakr that, this army that Rasulullah appointed to fight the Romans, we need to delay this project because now we need the Muslims here. We need the Muslims here. We should not allow Usama bin Zayd to take his army and fight the Romans. Abu Bakr said, I don't give you permission. He said, how can I, Abu Bakr, reverse the command that was given to us from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. We have tawakkul on Allah. And this reminds me of an incident regarding the Battle of Badr, when they made a canopy for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We all know the history of the Battle of Badr, when they made a canopy for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And on that canopy, Rasulullah is there, he's crying and he's making dua to Allah. That, oh Allah, make the Muslims win, give victory to the Muslims. Even though they were only small in number, they were not even prepared for that battle. Give victory to the Muslims. And he's crying so much, until Abu Bakr comes. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, Hasbaq Allah. Oh Rasulullah, Allah is sufficient for us. Now just picture that for a moment. Who could go up to Rasulullah and say that to him? To stop crying, O Prophet of Allah. Have trust in Allah. Who else could do this except Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr said, have trust in Allah. Allah is sufficient for us. Allah will give us victory. He learned this tawakkul from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when people are confused that Rasulullah, the Prophet of Allah, has died, they're questioning Islam, they're questioning the existence of Allah. He said, no. He said, Usama bin Zayd will take his army of 2,000, 2,000 to 4,000 Muslims, and they were going to fight 200,000 Romans. 2,000, maximum 4,000, were going to fight 200,000 Romans. And according to some of the historians, the army was far greater than that. It was up to 400,000. So his Khalifaship was 2.5 years. During the end of his life, it was one of the days he took a bath on a cold day and he got a fever. And his fever increased until the 15th day. He called his daughter Aisha, radiyallahu anha, and he said to her that, what day is it today? She said, it's Monday. He said, I feel that today will be my last day. This was the 15th day of his illness. He said, I feel that today will be my last day because Rasulullah also died on Monday. He asked her, what day is it today? What day did Rasulullah die? She said, he died on a Monday. He said, I feel that today I will leave this world, I will die. And on that very day, on the 21st of Jumada al-Akhirah, in the 13th year of the Islamic calendar, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu died. He died at the age of 63. So just like he followed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam during his life, he followed him in death as well. He died on the same day as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His age was the same as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu had the honor of leading the janazah prayer, and Abu Bakr was buried rather in the chamber of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the room of his daughter Aisha radiyallahu anha, and he was buried next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But out of respect, he was slightly lower than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so his head was placed adjacent to the shoulders of blessed shoulders of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was the life of Abu Bakr in short.